All right, Gene Galin here with the Chatham Journal, and I'm riding along with Sheriff Roberson on a Saturday morning. And come Monday, I think it's 5 p.m., Governor Roy Cooper has said, hey, we're going to have a stay-at-home order that gets effective at 5 p.m. So what we're doing this morning, the Saturday morning, is driving around with the sheriff and getting his perspective as what that means for us folks here in Chatham County. Sheriff, what do you see as being the biggest things that folks need to be aware of with this stay-at-home order?
I think that's what they're calling it. I think the intent behind it is to make sure that we are keeping our social distancing, and it's tightening it down a little bit. The medical professionals are telling us in the county, at least, that this next week or two are probably the most critical points. I know we've sort of been at home for the last couple of weeks, but these next couple of weeks, the curve is really getting steep, and now is the time that is most critical that we keep our social distancing.
And for those who aren't aware of social distancing, I think most people are. What's your definition of social distancing?
The definition they're putting out is they want people to remain 6 foot apart from each other if you're in the public settings. They say stay at home. I want people to understand that doesn't mean stay in your house. We have different areas in the community of how close people live. If you're in a rural area, you can be out in the yard, you can do yard work, you can go running. If you read the order, it's pretty open about what you can do. Its intent is just to stay away from other groups. Up until this order comes into effect, you can be in a group up until 50 people, and that's just too much. And so I think they're just trying to tighten it down to help save lives. And I think in all of this, I want people to know that the real goal in this is to save people's lives.
Right. Now, the rule was up to 50. Is there a size limit right now? Is it 10 or something like that, or is it just stay at home?
It's stay at home. I know that if you can keep it down below 10, they would encourage you to do that. So I don't think they want really public gatherings. They want you to stay at your house. There are exceptions, and if you read the exceptions, there's plenty of exceptions. There's not many sort of businesses that I don't think would be accepted. There are specific things that are closed. The specific things are like beauty shops and barber shops and tattoo parlors. All the things that you have personal space, you can't keep the 6 foot away from. So I think in all of this, we want the businesses that can run, that are essential. We want people to be able to go get the products that they need. We want people to be healthy. And I know it sounds negative now, but I think in the end, there'll be a lot of positive changes that come out of this. I know now I can get my pharmacy is delivering. I picked up my groceries the other day by ordering it online and picking it up in the parking lot, and somebody pushed it outside for me. So taking advantage of some of those things that might have been there before but we didn't think about, maybe some positive things that come out of this.
So in Chatham County, barber shops, beauty salons, nail care and all that kind of stuff, sounds like that will not be permitted. But for most other businesses in Chatham County, restaurants are going to be able to keep operating.
Yeah, there's a list of it. It's very long, and they call it essential businesses, but it's so broad that if you have a real purpose for going to do something, it's not meant to restrain people from not going to the grocery store or pharmacy or literally stay at home. So that word "stay at home" is to drive an impact of what we want you to do, and to make sure we stay away from groups.
And folks who want to see a list of that, if you go to chathamjournal.com website, we've got a story about it. We actually pulled the list off of the order that came out from the governor's office, so you can take a look at those particulars. I think one of the things that folks in Chatham County are also concerned about is, there's multi-generational folks here in the county. They're concerned about their friends, their neighbors, their family members who may live a stretch away from where they're at. Under this rule, though, you're able to go out and take care of those family members and friends and neighbors if you need to. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. We don't really want you visiting person to person, but if you need to go pick up stuff for them, if you need to deliver stuff for them, if they need yard maintenance done or something done to their home, you can go do all of that. I saw a cute picture on Facebook just a while ago where kids were going to visit their grandparents and actually happened to live in the rest home. And they were visiting through one of the windows so that they could actually see them, but there wouldn't be any chance of being contagious.
So Chatham County folks, you got friends, relatives, and neighbors that need some assistance, feel free to, I shouldn't say feel free, but go ahead and do what you need to do. Just don't have a coronavirus party type of situation.
And you brought up a good point about family. There are people who live here that don't have family. So if you know neighbors or people in your community that don't have family, or even if they do, pick up the phone and call them and just check on them. I think this time is a time where a lot of fear is in the community, a lot of the fear of the unknown, a lot of fear of what's going to happen next. So I think just checking in with them, making sure if you can help them, that would be very, very beneficial in our community.
Now, with the restaurants that are open and running and in operation, it's still the same rule applies. It's takeout only. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're doing a lot of them are doing curbside, and a lot of restaurants that never did that before are doing that really to stay in business. And I hope when all this is over, some of them will continue to do that. I found it to be a pretty good service to eat some of the restaurants that you don't think of having takeout before, and specifically ones that are local, ones that are sort of locally owned, they'll struggle through this if it lasts as long as it could last.
Right. The governor's order is that this is going to run through till April 29th, unless, now he's reserved the right that if the situation changes, they can stop it quicker than the 29th.
Yeah, I don't think it benefits anybody to do this other than to save lives. And if it comes to a point to where they are seeing that something's changed that they didn't predict, I'm sure that they'll ease up on it. But the medical staff that I have heard from are saying that the peak will be sometime in mid to late April.
Well, that's a good thing about, you mentioned medical staff, medical questions. You're not an expert on medicine, neither am I. So if folks have medical questions, who should they reach out to here in Chatham County?
Well, if they have general questions, I know the health department is the lead on this here about what businesses can do and not do, and the overall health issues. But if you have specific things you're worried about, I would still consult your regular physician. Make sure if you're having anything you're worried about, make sure you remember to call them and talk to them. I will also say that the frontline people right now are the nurses, the paramedics, the ambulances, the medical professionals that we have now are working harder than ever on this, and my hats go off to them for the risk really they're putting themselves and their families in and helping deal with people with this virus. It's a pretty scary time for them, but I really appreciate the work they're doing for us.
We're riding along a stretch of 64 between Pittsboro and Siler City right now. County's a big county. We're like, 710 square miles. We've got 70,000 folks. How can folks in Chatham County help make your law enforcement life easier, to just make life easier for all Chatham County residents during this time?
Well, law enforcement wise, the schools are closed and courts are very, very limited. So we actually have more officers on the road now than we normally do, because if you need us, we're going to be there. We're doing business as usual. And so everything that we were doing before, other than the closing of schools and court, we're still doing. I think checking on each other is the biggest thing you can do. If you need us, call us. We'll be there. We're still going to provide the exact same services we provided before.
And what's the best way to reach them? Because again, not everything's a 911 situation. So if they need to reach out to you, maybe they have a concern about a neighbor or something going on, what's the best way for them to reach you?
The non-emergency number is 919-542-2911.
And that number again is?
919-542-2911. And that's for something that you want a deputy to respond to, or if you have a question. When they get done with their 911 calls, or someone will call you back, and we'll be able to talk to you.
Fantastic. Now, earlier on, you mentioned that there are folks that have fears. What are some of the fears that you've heard that folks here in Chatham County have mentioned to you?
Well, number one is the uncertainty. We're living through a life-changing crisis here that will probably change how we operate after this. just like the 9/11 for the healthcare industry. And so I think there's fear of unknown, and when orders and things go out, people are making decisions without all the information because we don't know exactly how long it's going to last. We don't know exactly what we need to and don't need to be doing. I think when we look backwards on this a year or two from now, we're going to learn a lot from how our nation responded to this. I think there's a lot of fears about not having a job. A lot of these hourly people are at home doing the stay-at-home right now aren't getting paid. I mean, we're lucky in that our staff is still working. A lot of the essential businesses are still working, and any way we can keep business going, we want to do that. But they're worried about what's going to happen at the end of the month or the next month when bills come due, and most people I know can't go for more than a month without a paycheck. I mean, they live pretty much paycheck to paycheck,
right.
And I see this hitting our hourly wage people a little faster.
Well, I know some of the restaurants have laid off folks simply because they're not able to do catering. I mean, all those events are called off. That hasn't been possible for last month or so, and that's going to continue to be that way for 30 days. Now, you did mention that courts are closed and certain other functions are closed, but if somebody wants a gun permit, for example, what's the process on that? Is that still are they still able to do that?
Yes, absolutely. We're still doing gun permits just like we've done before. The only thing we've changed is we are not doing the social contacting at the front window. So we encourage people to go online, fill out the information online, mail it in if you want to mail it in. If you want to come by the office and you have a reason to come by there, we do have a drop box that you can drop it in the box. We're still issuing permits, and we will mail those out instead of you having to come pick them up. So we're trying to make it easier on our public and the services that we're providing. And the only reason we change a policy for what we're doing is to stop to help the social distancing issues that we have with our service.
And what's your current turnaround on that right now, about ballpark?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Usually it's between a week and 2 weeks for a handgun permit, and the carry conceal depends on how fast the hospital gets your mental health check back. It's between 8 and 12 weeks. But honestly, we've had a little rush on gun permits here. So, if it gets a little bit longer, it's not because we're not doing our part. It may be that we have more permits coming in. The people who do those permits are still working. We got them in offices separated from each other, and they're still working on those permits.
So that's one of the fear that some folks in the county have, and you've addressed that. You mentioned the economic concerns, and again, there's not much you and I can do about that part. Are there other fears or concerns that Chatham County folks have mentioned to you?
Well, I think as far as our services, I want people to know that we're still here. We'll still be there. If you call us, if you need us, we'll come. Now, I will tell you that we are starting to answer calls a little differently. If we come to your house, we're going to want you to come outside versus us going in your house if that's at all possible. But if it's a type of call we need to go in, then we have the gear that we'll go in the house too. Typically, when people are home, our crime goes down, our calls go down. I do know as we stay at home a little more, our domestics tend to go up a little bit, and as people get desperate about times, I think there'll be a lot more calls for help of needing food or needing essential items. And I think the community helping us with their neighbors would really ease our ability to serve everyone in the county.
When we talked earlier, you mentioned there's a whole bunch of misinformation, and contrary to some people's beliefs, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true. So what's some of the misinformation you're hearing Chatham County folks being concerned about?
Well, a lot of times I think people just see something on social media and they just forward it, and it's sort of like that telephone game. By the time opinions get put on it, it gets changed around. Somebody told me something on social media. You can have a trusted source of information, but you also need to check and see if it's reliable. And so I would say be careful of sharing what's going on or what people have said. I heard usually is not a good source of information.
Holy cow, gas is $1.61 here at the Murphy Express in Siler City.
It's got to be 25 years before it's been that low.
That is wild. Hey, I'm not laughing about the situation, but hey, there is a rainbow at the end here, in that gas prices have definitely come down. So and that will help folks that are on tight budgets right now.
Yes. Like I said, there will be positives in this. The other fear that I was thinking about is sort of the mental health aspect of staying healthy. The best way, I think, what I've heard from the health people is about 80% of us are going to get the virus in the end, and the best way to avoid that, what we're doing right now, the social distances, is to lower the curve so that there's enough hospital beds for the sickest people.
Right.
But the best way to deal with the virus is to stay healthy. So stay active, go outside, get some sunshine, and honestly work on the mental health. I know we always think of mental health as someone else having the problem, but maybe even putting the social media down and not look at it all day long. Maybe turning off the cable news and not just focusing on the same thing said over and over and over, and get outside and do something in nature, take a walk. I know a lot of our rural areas, there's plenty of space to be where you have social distancing. So don't think that you have to stay in your house to be able to conform with these rules.
And actually, that brings up an interesting point, because I've seen some people concerned about, hey, can I go out and exercise? Can I walk around my neighborhood? What can I do? And again, it's one of those fear things where I hear there's this stay at home, but does that really mean I can't step foot outside the door? And again, Chatham County, there's lots of parts of Chatham County where you can look out your bedroom window of your home and you're not going to see the neighbors. So what's your advice for folks here in Chatham County?
I would say the weather's beautiful. Be outside as much as you can be while it's pretty. Don't just get sucked into hearing the same opinions about what's going on over and over and over. The credible sources are CDC, Chatham County Health Department, the county will put out information. Listen to sources that are giving you information from the root and not just because someone heard it. And I think just making sure we check on each other and making sure that we care about each other. It's very important in these times. Our spiritual leaders and also have been struggling with how to attend church and those kind of things. I've seen some pretty new ways of dealing with church. I mean, a lot of them are doing it online. A lot of them are doing it from the parking lot. As long as you maintain the 6 foot distances when you're out there and you're not in groups, I think now it's going to be bigger than 10. So all of that's changing as we go along. And so the best thing about our community is we're pretty good about coming up with new ways of doing things. So I just worry about our being in the house for 4 to 6 weeks. I know for me, that's pretty difficult to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, I recognized this lady sitting on my couch the other day, and it turned out to be my wife. That's a bad joke, but you know what? To a certain extent, yeah, we're spending a whole bunch of time close together. Some folks have, again, their kind of concern is, oh my gosh, what do I do to avoid being, I'm a lawful kind of person, but I don't want to get hassled. So, what are you going to be, as a sheriff and your folks, your deputies, when they're out there driving around, what are things that may grab their attention versus, hey, this person's keeping the correct social distance and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
Well, I think that we are looking for people to self-regulate on this. We're not doing traffic stops to ask you where you're going. We're not going to be interjecting ourselves into your life. I don't have the manpower, I don't have the resources. We need the community's help on this. But I do want you to know that any help that we do, all of this helps not just us, but everyone. So the best way to deal with this is I want everyone to pretend like you're infected with the disease right now. And if you pretend like you have the disease, you're going to act right. You're going to stay at the places you need to stay. You're not going to go to the places you don't need to go. If you really need it, you're going to actually do it. And I think that's what the whole order's intent is. Doing right by the order is basically making sure that we're keeping the social distancing. We're at places that we need to be at, and that we take care of each other.
Now, up to this point, with the restrictions that we have had, What have you seen as most Chatham County residents' reaction to this whole thing?
Oh, I think by far, I mean, in the 98%, people have been doing exactly what we've been asking them to do. I think our young kids, sort of been going to Walmart a little bit. We want to sort of limit that. We want the parents to, to sort of help us with the social distancing. But, high 90% people are doing exactly what we're asking them to do. Even the restaurants, they were quick to even pull up the chairs and put them up against the wall when it went to 50. And so I think it's very positive of our community of how seriously we're taking this. The more we can get compliance with this, because the better.
We mentioned earlier on the concern for small businesses, and you and I have talked about it, and you see it in our community on the Facebook pages and everything else. And there's several restaurants and businesses that are reaching out under this stay-at-home ruling that kicks in on Monday at 5 p.m. Are folks still going to be able to go out and pick up stuff, or do they need to order stuff, or can they do both? And what's your recommendation? Look, we've got a concern here. We want to stay safe, and as you said, you kind of need to think of yourself, hey, I may have the virus, but we have a whole bunch of local businesses owned by local Chatham County folks that we don't want to see to go under, and some of them may, but what can we do, or what are you seeing as what can we as a community do to help our neighbors out that own businesses?
Well, the curbside pickup you can do. If it's for food, if it's for essentials, if it's for services, you can do that. And most of the restaurants that I know of are doing either delivery or curbside pickup. And I would tell you that doing business with those local businesses is extremely important for our community. Or these are the same businesses that, when times are good, we're asking them to donate. We're asking them to help, with the PTA. We're asking them to donate for sports. I think now, if you can, it's time to give back to them a little bit if you can. And so I think they need it. The more they can stay in business, the more people it's going to employ. It has a multiplying effect if we can help our local businesses.
I know this can be a downer, being a glass half full versus a glass half empty kind of person. And I got a feeling that you're the same way. What do you see as some of the positives coming out of this? What are you seeing right now that people are doing that you're going, you know what, this is Chatham County folks coming together?
Well, one thing that I'm seeing is people checking on each other a lot more, making phone calls. I think there's a genuine care and love and compassion that we have in this place, probably because a lot of our rural nature and a lot of people here know each other. So I think that's positive. I think technology is going to be positive. I would have never went and shopped at a grocery store, let someone else shop for me up until this past week. And then once I did that, I don't think I ever want to go shop at a grocery store again. So,
now, is your wife to feel the same way, or did she get something in that grocery bag that she's like, I wouldn't have picked that out?
Well, I think she enjoyed it too, and she may enjoy the shopping. I think my problem when I shop, I talk too much, so it takes me 2 hours to go pick up one thing. But but it's a service that they were doing before this, but it really has helped with social distancing. And so I think you'll see a lot more people use technology. I think the next generation has been doing that, with ordering things through Amazon and those kind of things, and having things delivered at home. You're going to see a lot more people inclined to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we touched on this briefly before, and again, I don't know how deeply we want to go into it. Probably not too much, but I think this is also showing that, we need high-speed internet here in Chatham County, not just in the central areas near the towns, but all over the county.
Well, I think that locally, I think the officials want that. I know the school is big behind it. I know the commissioners are big behind it. I know the towns are. There's a regulation, I think, either at the state or federal level, about who can put that in, and there's going to be a lot more pressure to do that after this, I assure you. And mostly because a lot of these kids are still online taking classes, but there's a lot of kids that don't have internet in their home.
Right.
So it goes to show you that it really is a utility, just like the power bill or the water bill, is that people will need access to the internet.
Yep, we're seeing a whole bunch of that. I know my daughter's a kindergarten teacher, and she's doing classes via video conferencing every day. And you're right, there are some students that she can't reach out to because they don't have that access. So that's definitely something that's not important just in Chatham County, but other surrounding areas.
The one cool thing I saw the schools doing was I saw some of the principals on the school bus delivering packets to kids, and I thought that was another new way of thinking of how do we get information to people, how do we get them what they need, and so I think a lot of people are really thinking about different ways of doing things, and if we can grab hold of those good things, and when the bad things go away, we'll be better off in the end for this.
Right. We've talked a lot about neighbors helping neighbors and touched on adults. You briefly mentioned that you've had some teenagers hanging around Walmart that you're kind of like, you know what, you guys don't need to be so close together. Is there advice for parents or for parents with teenagers or kids that you'd like to get that word out there? Hey parents, hey kids, hey teenagers. Here's what you can do over the next 4 weeks to make life easier, not just for you, but your folks and everyone in Chatham County.
Well, I didn't mean to imply the kids were doing anything wrong intentionally by being at Walmart, but I think when you're young, you feel like you're maybe a little more invincible, and that this might not affect you as much. You hear a lot that it's only older people, but young people can spread it too. Even if that is true, I don't believe it's all true. I think you can get the virus, but even if it is, you can be contagious to other people. So if we can have them go by the same rules that the adults need to go by, the 6-foot distancing, to not congregate, to only go out if you need necessities, I think all that'll fix it. I think parents having things for kids to do, come up with things that you can do outside, come up with things you can do other than just being in the house. So being a little more creative, I think, will help those situations.
Another question is, I think Pittsboro Parks and Rec have done it, and I know it doesn't fall under your jurisdiction, and Siler City's doing the same thing. Their Parks and Rec department they're closing down their facilities. I mean, you can still go out and use fields, but you can't use like the playground area. What's your advice on that kind of stuff?
So if you're in open areas, it's all good. I think when you're around things that people touch, that's the reason they don't want you on playground equipment. They don't want you going into the buildings, the things that are maybe not being cleaned as much. So if you're in open areas, if you're on the sidewalk, if you're on a trail, if you're in open fields, I think you're in a lot better shape. You still need to maintain social distancing. So, I know we've had some kids playing basketball behind the sheriff's office, and it's pretty hard to maintain 6 foot playing basketball.
Right.
So you got to sort of think through what you're doing to make sure that we're not spreading the germ. Again, this all goes back to saving lives and making sure that we're stopping this virus from spreading as quickly as we can, so we can get back to normal as quickly as we can.
Well, it sounds like a lot of the stuff you're talking about and recommending is common sense, the kind of stuff your mom and my mom probably told us when we were kids. We're getting close to half hour here. Sheriff's been great on providing a whole bunch of information. Are there other things that you need to let Chatham County folks know that, hey, this is the things you need to be watching out for over the next 30 days, especially starting on Monday after 5 o'clock?
Well, I think check, like I said again, I know I keep repeating this because it's important. I want you to check on people that might not have family, check on your family, make sure people know you love and care about them. I think mental health is a big part of this. I think you need to be thinking about things that we're spending money on that we might not need to be spending money on. You need to think about the long haul in this. To go 6 or 8 weeks without income for some of these people is pretty traumatic. So if you have extra, please help people that don't. The other thing I want to tell you is that all this might change. We might do this video today, and they come up 3 days from now, and now you can't go to the parks and you can't go outside, or it might be that they change it the other way and it gets easier. So be flexible. A lot of these rules are put in place because they need to make a decision at the time, and when facts change, they'll change the rules to match the facts that we know. So be flexible in this, take care of each other, and I think we'll get through it. We'll get through this in the end, and I sure appreciate all the help in the community.
Right, and the thing is, as the sheriff said, if things change, and he makes us aware of it, if some of the stuff that he says today does no longer apply, we'll post on it. One of the things I told the sheriff before we started this is we needed to get this information out there. The Chatham Journal website, we usually average about 1,000 visits a day. The last 3 days, everything's been over 3,000. A couple of days ago, it was over 8,000. So folks are looking for good information. I thought this was important to do with the sheriff because, we got Wake County and Durham County, which have two of the counties with the highest cases of COVID-19. And we're hearing a whole bunch of stuff from across the county line. But folks, this is Chatham County. This is our local sheriff. He's telling you how he sees things coming down in Chatham County. So we appreciate him doing this. Let folks know that this video's out there. Let them listen to him. And this is the man who's in charge of law enforcement for the county. Sheriff, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to finish up with before we shut her down?
I want to tell you, Gene, thank you for putting information out. Thank you for the work you do to inform people. I like the platforms that you use. You pretty much put it straight out there what it is, and I think the people can rely on what you're telling them. So thank you for allowing us to get the message out. I want everybody to know that the sheriff's office is still here. We want to help you. If you need us, we're a phone call away.
So folks, behave properly and we'll all get this together because we win as a team, and that's what we're looking to do here. And the sheriff wants you to be aware of what you need to do and not do over the next 30 days, but he's here to help you as needed. Thank you so much, Sheriff.
Thank you, Gene.